Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's so good to finally meet with you. I'm sorry for all the past
Oh,
difficulties in
it's
meeting.
half my fault. We forgot to talk about time zones.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would like to ask permission first to record this meeting.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes. Can you tell me, is South Bay a city in Los Angeles?
It's like a little, I don't know what's called, like a just like I don't know. It's not like anything like legal, like oh this is the South Bay or like a district or anything. It's kind of just a few cities that are we call them the beach cities because they're like these. There's like three main cities that are kind of like we're on the water, and then I think we include like another one that's like right next to us, and that's what we call like the South Bay. It's kind of just like a local, I guess, name for like the area of LA that we're in.
Okay, I was just trying to figure it out because I saw it on Twitter that you were the South Bay team. I've got a dog here that thinks I'm talking to him. She's trying to rub my leg off. So I would love to talk to you today about your clothing recycling and how you feel about fashion and what you're doing, how your advocacy is working.
Yeah, awesome. Just have any specific questions, or would you like me to just general?
Yes, one of the things I'd like to know is how many other kids in your school are on board with you and saying, you know, Mom and Dad, I don't really want any new clothes. I want to go to the thrift store. How many people are there in your group doing that?
Well, I know a lot of people personally in my own friend groups who are on like these like reselling apps like Depop or Mercari, or even just on Instagram, especially since we got that first like lockdown order like I guess a year ago now. It was this big thing I think everywhere, but especially I noticed like in my own local area of kids just like going on social media like Instagram and like making accounts like selling their old clothes. So it was this huge like buy and resell thing. I think it was partly like, oh well, I have nothing to do, like kind of like spring cleaning type thing. And so a lot of people were doing that on Instagram at first, I noticed. Just kind of like reselling their clothes to like other like kids like our peers, like people in our grade, and it's kind of something like, oh, give me like $20 for this, I'll come drop it by at your house, or like you can come pick it up from my doorstep, and like more like localized type thing, like even just like trading clothes or like buying and selling in our own friend groups. So that's more like on a local level, which my friends and peers have been doing. But I've also noticed like definitely a large shift of people on these like buying and resell apps like Depop or like Mercari or Poshmark, where like
Just a minute. What did you say? Depop and
yeah,
March?
I can put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Depop, Mercari, these are like the main ones.
Okay. I don't know anything about that. I usually get in the car and go to the thrift resale store for the PTA when I want to buy hand-me-downs. But we call those clothes hand-me-downs. Do you still call those clothes hand-me-downs?
Um, it depends on what, like, kind of, I guess, what the scenario is. Like, if it's something like, oh, my friend is like, oh, do you want this shirt or something like that, and and then I would I think it for me, hand me down is like something that I put like a monetary value on. Like, oh, if someone gives me something like for free, like, oh, I would consider that a hand me down. But if it's something that like I'm like looking for, and I like go out and I'm like, oh, I want this, and I like buy it, I don't know. For me, it's just like regular clothes, like second use clothes, are like, I don't know, just like clothes to me. Like, I don't necessarily see them as hand me downs, but like if it's something that like my like relatives or my cousins like have like a bag of clothes, or like, oh, do you want these hand me downs? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. But like, yeah, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just from a different generation and trying to keep up. So you're really enlightening a whole group of people now telling us about this. One of the other questions I have is, do you plan to start sewing? Are you going to take some clothes and rip them apart and make new clothes with them?
That's definitely something that I've like really like thought about getting into, is like, getting a sewing machine. I know that like my grandma was really big into sewing, and that's something that like I was kind of gonna like sit down and learn with her. Of course she has like the kind of older sewing machines. I have some friends who have like the new like more like high-tech ones, that are like really like quick and fast, and that's something that I think would be really cool to get into. Um, it's just been something that I just haven't necessarily had the time to sit down and like try to pick up another hobby, but I yeah, it's definitely something that I've thought about doing.
Mhm. So what made you decide that we need to do something about fashion, the
Mm,
fashion industry? What
Yeah,
triggered it?
I think it was kind of just like kind of being enlightened about all the choices we make. I mean, I'm a vegan. I don't know if you saw in like some of the other interviews, but kind of when I learned about the choices that our food has was kind of around the same time that I learned about like how as consumers like the effects that those have. So like specifically, obviously that was like in fashion. And just kind of like looking at the statistics of, obviously I don't have them like memorized, but just like how many like pounds like of clothes that we throw away each year is just like crazy to me. And obviously all those clothes could be um like just bought again secondhand, or just given as hand me downs like you said, or just reused, or like you said with sewing, they could just be like remade into something that's really special. And a lot of times, obviously there's sometimes when clothes are at the end of its end of their line, but even still then I think that we don't have to go to the full extent of throwing them away. We can use the clothes for other purposes and like try to repurpose them and stuff. But I think just seeing like all these statistics of like how many like gallons of water it takes for a single t-shirt, I just thought was like so insane. And looking at like how many that like just regular t-shirts that we're throwing away, like it's not like we have a lack of clothes. Like we have like an abundance of these items, and we just keep making them, but there's just so many that if they're already just made, so we should just reuse them, in my opinion.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Do you share clothes?
Yeah, I'll when I kind of get to the end of the line with my clothes, or something that I wore a few years ago, and just kind of like, even if it still fits, it's just kind of like kind of done with this. I'll either give it to her, or just for me it's like I try to like sell most of my clothes, especially since me and my sister don't have the most similar styles. We're similar sizes, which ends up working out nicely, but most of the time we're kind of shopping for different things. So we'll normally go and try to sell those clothes, but offer them to her and her friends first. But I do. She does definitely have some of my old clothes. We just kind of reuse those.
Have you ever seen a t-shirt quilt where people take their t-shirts and cut them into quilt squares and sew them together?
I think I've seen that before. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. A
Mhm.
fun way to recycle clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Like even if they're not like necessarily like wearable anymore, you could still like make a good like a quilt as a great use of do
Yes.
those.
What about recycling with the homeless? Do you do anything with that?
Normally, I mean, it was more so when I was younger and we had more clothes, because obviously as I'm older, we're not growing out of our clothes at such like a fast rate. But definitely just like donating clothes to bins, especially like um yeah, donating stuff for homeless and stuff like that is definitely something that we also do.
Good. I think something was up with your video for a minute. Your face froze, but you're back. So
Great.
you are in a junior in high school
Mhm.
and you're president of a group. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm a junior and I'm president of the Grades of Green Club. And I don't know if you know what Grades of Green is, because I know they're like global, but they're mainly like Southern California based, or these are like where their roots are at. But it's like a nonprofit organization, and they do like a lot of outreach and like educational stuff, especially like I think it's K through 12. But basically I started like a chapter, I guess you could say, of that organization at my school. And what we do is like these like campaigns, which is kind of hard to explain from like an outside perspective, but the best way I can describe it is like they give you a topic, and it's like one year it was like waste, and then you have to come up with a solution to solve this issue, and then your like solution or your project goes up for like a challenge. So it's kind of like Shark Tank at that part. And
Oh,
there's like judges, like environmental people, like a panel of judges, and like the people who win get like a eco grant of like money to enhance their project. So that's mainly what we do for the club, is like participate in these like campaigns, because they're like they're either semester long or like a full year long. So that's kind of like our main focus for the past 3 years.
So Grades of Green is something that started in California.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do? Do you give speeches? Do you go out and to the public and do outreach? What exactly are you doing?
Yeah. I definitely do outreach and speeches kind of like apart from the club. So like with like solely like Grades of Green, and like with that like the name of Grades of Green, I'm always working with Grades of Green some way or another. Like they just have like awesome mentors who like help me with like outreach and stuff like that. But yeah, with the club it's mainly just those campaigns. Like my freshman year we did beach cleanups that were super cool at our local pier. And then like last year we tried to do a stand-up paddleboard cleanup in a marina, but that got canceled because of lockdown. And this year we're doing like social media Meatless Monday stuff. But as for like other advocacy stuff, that's more so like more of like my own like personal stuff that I do outside of the club. But that would include like talking at like city council meetings, which I've done a lot, like when we are talking about like renewable stuff like that and more policy stuff. But as for like fashion, that's something that I've definitely started talking about more recently, obviously, since it's been something that is only like come across my like environmental radar in the past like year or so. So that's that webinar that I think you saw. That's like the first time that I really like spoke like publicly about the topic.
Have you thought about starting a blog?
I definitely have thought about doing something like that. I think that, social media and like the internet is just like a great resource to like get information out and stuff like that. So definitely came across my mind.
Do you set up booths when they have, well, we haven't this year, we haven't had very many opportunities for community fairs and holiday events where people can set up a booth and hand out information and flyers and talk to people. But that's something you might want to think about to drive your fashion eco influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to take, it will take quite an army to change the fashion industry. It would be nice to see them say, okay, this whole rack of clothes didn't sell. We're going to bring them back in the shop and cut the sleeves off and remake them into this.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do with those clothes. That'd be something fun for you to research.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like with booths and stuff, I'm also a part of our city's like it's called Sustainability Youth Council or Youth Corps or something like that. They changed the name a few times, so I'm not sure what the standing name is right now, but we would do like booths and stuff like that at our local fairs that we have like every October, and it's just kind of like informational stuff that like our city is doing, and just like ways that people can kind of be more environmentally aware, like things that they can change within their house to make it more like environmentally friendly. And so that's like the booth outreach that I've done before.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So what do you plan to do after you graduate?
Definitely something environmental. I definitely have a few paths in mind. I've grown up at the beach my whole life, so the ocean is like super duper important to me. So I definitely think I want to take like a marine biology or like a marine biology path, which I think would just be so like awesome, just like diving and just like work like helping like conserve the ocean that way. But I also have an interest in like law too, so some way that I can work in like being in the field for marine biology, but also the advocacy part is obviously like, and talking is definitely something that I also like to do. But as for fashion, I definitely want to start my own sustainable swimwear brand, which is something that I've like wanted to do for a good amount of time now, like very like passionately, which I want to start up like as soon as possible. I definitely have a lot to learn, so I plan on taking classes.
Yep. She can be loud. Sam. There was a recent hearing from a judge concerning some language in the FOIA documents, the Freedom of Information Act. You said you were interested in law, but from what's happened, usually you're able to get judicial information that's been awarded in a court. All you have to do is send your FOIA. You fill out a form in your request and you tell them what you want. But they're trying to change the language now. Well, they did change. They just changed the language. So when they have a draft, if they put a draft on it and they say, you know, we just researched this and it's a draft, we're not sure what we're going to do about it. Now they say you can't get that information. So if the science group or a research group says, you know, if we're changing the temperature of water in this whole area to run our machines in the ocean, it's going to disturb some natural flora here. So we need to see what it does disturb. Well, now it's going to be harder to get that information because if they put the title draft on it, it won't be applicable for the FOIAs. So that's something to think about. Because they're making it more difficult for people in journalism to attain the information to make it available for the public.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Yeah. There's, in the South Bay that, you know, Palos Verdes, I don't know if you know Palos Verdes, but it's this one like area, which is kind of in between like Catalina Island. There's like this like channel or this area, and there's a bunch of DDT that got dropped there, and it's a Superfund site. And
when did this happen?
a while back with like Monsanto like dumping all this DDT, and there was a lawsuit about it, and it kind of just, I don't know, they didn't really do much about it, so it's getting like brought up and stuff, which is something that I'm getting involved with a little bit, which is going to be cool. But like it's the law stuff is interesting, definitely interesting.
Yeah, so was this in the water in the ocean it was dumped?
Yeah, a bunch of these like barrels, or I need to, I don't know too much about the case, so don't quote me on that, but
well,
yeah.
But that's interesting. I didn't know about that. I'm in North Carolina on the other side.
Yeah.
So I don't hear a whole lot about California.
Yeah, it's kind of something that's, they kind of tried to like forget about and just didn't really, there was a whole like lawsuit about it and they just didn't really touch it, so it's still just kind of like out there, and we have just a bunch of fishing goes on over there, so it's like very interesting and just like right in our own backyard. So yeah,
here we have problems with pig farmers.
Like
they have these waste lagoons, you know, it's like 5 acres of pig waste and water.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so we have brown seepage. And North Carolina is one of the largest pork producers in the state. And 2 years ago, they made it harder with litigation to get the FOIA documents for them. And the argument in the state Senate was that the pig farmers bring in a lot of tax money. They create a lot of money.
Got the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see what you do. I hope you'll keep up a blog or something and keep us posted. I'd love to see you change the fashion industry and say, this was recycled, so we're going to sell it for X amount of dollars. You know?
Yeah. I'm hoping that later when I would love to create like a sustainable swimwear brand just to kind of, you know, help protect the oceans that way, and just kind of like, yeah, just create more brands out there.
Yeah. Well, let me know when you get that sewing machine and start recycling. So how many clothing items do you have right now? Is that your closet behind you?
Yeah, not too much in there, just, you know, some of my debate stuff, you know. I'm wearing my running uniform right now, but yeah, I mean, I have a large pile of stuff that I'm trying to sell for my family on these resale apps, but yeah, don't have too much of a surplus, you know. Try not to have too much, or if I get something new, just like kind of like sell, just because I'm not gonna wear too many clothes.
That's smart.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope you start a movement.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll send you a link to this article when it's ready. Okay.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. Oh, and then is there anything else that you need? Like pictures or
Oh yes, I wanted to use a couple of your PowerPoint video. You have a couple of pieces of information on there with some statistics. I'd like to share that if it's okay.
yeah, you definitely can.
Okay, super. And I'm gonna just use this video to take a picture of you with. I'll just hold it still and capture your image.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It
Thank
was good
you. It
talking
was
with you.
nice talking with you.
Well, have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.